Hey Kaiki, Richard Metzelfantala. I'm bringing you guys an old school album review, and today we're going to be looking into this album's 20th anniversary, and it's from one of my favorite bands. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be talking about Am Universum by Amorphis. This is the band's fifth album released on February 23rd, 2001, well, in Finland, but in April 3rd in the same year, it was released all around the world. But technically, this we're talking about it today since February 23rd actually came first. So let's just dive right into it. It's the band's fifth full-length album. And with every album that Amorphis has done, they've always changed up their styles. Like the Carillion, the Smooths was more just straight up death metal. Tales from the Thousand Lakes, which in my opinion is probably my favorite Amorphis album, was more of the has that death metal, but also has a little bit more melody to it. Elegy has more of a cleaner vocals, and they got a first album with their clean vocalist, Pasi Koskinen, and they've also changed up their style a little bit. And with their previous album Tunella, they actually went with more of a kind of like a doom kind of like stoner stuff, and also have like more progressive like elements into their sound. And this album, the fifth album, they have more of a like a kind of like a progressive metal, progressive rock sound, and also this has like more of a vocal driven rock sound. And let's just dive right into it. Let's just talk about like the production. Production, fantastic. Like Amorphis always has great production. Vocally, Pasi Koskinen, I just love his voice. Like he does like some really great singing. Um, and just like the guitar work from Issa Holopinen and Tomi Kovusari, just their guitars are just insane, and just like the riffs they come up with are great. Like Amorphis always has great riffs. The bass is actually the first album with a bassist, Nicholas El Televor. I'll just call him Nicholas. I'm not gonna butcher his last name. And he's pretty much replaced longtime former original bassist Oli Pekka, and he would of course Nicholas would be in the band up until 2017. Santari Kelio's keyboard playing is really great. Like the keyboards really add a lot of depth, layers, and atmosphere. And drumming wise, former drummer Pekka Kasari does some really great jumps on the drums. So yeah, I probably rambled on for a little over 2.5 minutes. So let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Alone, which is a great song. It also has like a very kind of like atmospheric introduction, and then it goes into like a high energy rocker with some really great chorus over a great riff that just punches you right in the face. I think it's a great way to start off this album. And then we move on to Goddess of the Sad Man, and it has like a great great look. I can't even speak today. I'm sorry. And it has some S's, like great riffs. Just a very rocking song. Next song on the album is called The Night Is Over, and this is a great example of pulling you kind of like out of the sadness. This just really just encouraging you to just live your life. I think it really just love the message behind this song. Um, Next up is Shatters Within, and it's a really classic sounding song, which has a very kind of like sad melody about turning your back to the world, and sort of like the guitar solo really at the end of the song just blends out the main melody, and it's just a really soothing track. Next on the album is called Crimson Wave. Now, this song kind of just has a very relaxing feel to it. Almost kind of feels like you're in like a lounge, and has some pretty jazz influences in this song. And this song ends with a great kind of like jazzy kind of like rock jam where the keyboards, guitars, and there's also some saxophones in the song. It just really just works together, and it's one of the most, I feel like, experimental songs that Amorphis has done, and it just really fits perfectly with this album. And that's just one thing like I mentioned about Amorphis. Like they always like to take a new approach to every album. They don't have like a formula that they stick with, which I think is really great. Like every album, it feels like you're almost listening to a different band. Moving on to the second half of the album and starting things off is Drifting Memories, which is just really just has like a very kind of like happy kind of like vibe to it, and it's only sort of like the wailing vocals after the intro that kind of like brings back in sort of like the swaying kind of like limitations of it. Forevermore. Now, this song, also similar to Drifting Memories, has a very upbeat feel to it from the start, but also feels like also has like some of the melodies and like the solos, those that also have like that very kind of melancholic theme to it. But its only hook is really effective in the pre-verse, and the lyrics is only negative. Otherwise, it's just a happy song musically. Veil of Sin. Now, this is the slowest song on the album. It starts off with some acoustic guitars and piano, and then there's like a saxophone that's added later, which is a pretty interesting touch. And it's also kind of like a resemblance of some other like Scandinavian metal bands that I've heard, or which I can't really name of, to be honest. Anyway, next song on the album is called Captured State, which is kind of a similar structured song, kind of similar to the last song, Veil of Sin. Has a very good piano intro and then it just straight into rock, but I just seem to hit a less melancholy note through, and it just makes you just be rocking instead of just like leaving you just in despair. And then everything closes with Grieve Stricken Heart, which opens up with kind of like some weird kind of like spacey sounds that has an almost kind of like ritual vibe to it. It sort of like varies from like calm longing and this sort of melancholic passage to a very dynamic and catchy chorus that just strangely fits really well in a perfect way. And then Amorphis just never sounds so like themselves, but everything they fits together as if this record was glued and fixed together there. And just Amorphis just puts like so much ideas into a single song that any other bands put on entire albums, and they just finished the album in a perfect way as they have started it. And I feel like the song has pretty much represents the album as much as like how it started with The Lone. And just leaves you just almost 7 minutes of just sheer brilliance. Now, overall, Am Universum by Amorphis is a really great album, a great experimental album, I should also add as well. So I'm going to give this album a score. I'm going to give this probably a 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of Am Universum by Amorphis, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal. Kitos.